two super shoes that went through some pretty big changes. Today we're comparing the Brooks Hyperion Elite 4 PB with the New Balance SC Elite V5. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Today, like I said, we're comparing the Hyperion Elite PB 4PB with the SC Elite V5, and if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of this video, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate it if you come back, watch the full thing when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you've been a viewer for a while but you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please consider doing so below and turning on notifications so that you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday through Friday. Now, quick plug before I get into anything here. I'm currently raising money for the Tokyo Marathon in 2026. I actually grew up in Japan and lived there basically until I graduated high school. Unfortunately, I haven't been back in nearly 15 years, so I'm hoping to return in 2026 to run the marathon. I'm entering through the charity route and have submitted my bid and should hear back within the next few weeks if I got in, but based on how their charity route goes, I do feel fairly confident that I should get there. So I'm getting a head start on the fundraising. If you'd like to donating, I'm actually committing all YouTube revenue for June, July, and August towards that cause. So if you want to donate through the comments, you can hit the thanks button, enter an amount there, or even just watching these videos, sharing them with your friends and family, help me generate more money so that I can donate more to charity and ultimately hit my goal of raising $4,000. On top of that, if you use any of my affiliate links in the description below, I have one for Wallaco, which are my favorite distance tights or running tights, as well as Fuel Goods, which is where I buy all of my running fuel, so gels, pre-run snacks, pre-run drinks, all those different things. Feel free to use those links and it will give me a kickback, and all those kickbacks, all those commissions for June, July, and August will also go towards charity. Now, quick disclaimers and disclosures. When it comes to these shoes, I actually received the SC Elite V5 for free, but I did pay for the Hyperion Elite 4 PB with my own money. That being said, when I'm given shoes, I'm not paid, I'm not given talk tracks, talking points, and no one gets to watch the videos beforehand. All thoughts are entirely my own. With that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of these two shoes. Both of these shoes are marathon racing shoes. They are super shoes. They are made for the elite athlete in mind so that they can run the marathon fast. Now, obviously, everyday runners can also use the shoes, but just keep in mind that they're meant to go very, very fast. Now, from a price perspective, both of these shoes come in at $250, which, crazy enough nowadays, is actually on the more affordable range of super shoes, as they are either approaching $300 or some have even surpassed that. Now, from a weight perspective, the shoes come in pretty close, with the PB coming in at 7 ounces, which is 198 grams, and then the V5 coming in at 7.3 ounces, which is 214 grams. Now, from a stack standpoint, you have 40 in the heel, 32 in the forefoot for both shoes, and an 8mm drop across both shoes. So very, very similar overall setups. From a fit perspective, there's a little bit of a difference here. With the PB, you have a very snug kind of midfoot area. It fits very typical of Brooks, which tend to be a little bit narrower in that midfoot area. And then I would say it has a pretty standard heel and pretty standard toe box throughout. Lengthwise, I will say it is true to size. With the SC Elite V5, it is true to size and a little bit more standard fit. If you are used to New Balance fit, this fits more streamlined, so it does fit more snug, though I will say it is not going to be a narrow fit overall. Moving to the upper, the Hyperion Elite 4 PB has a webbed mesh upper. It really is a pretty cool overall upper there. Very, very minimal, obviously very, very breathable, and is one of my favorite uppers on a racing shoe, to be honest. The tongue is not gusseted, but it does stay put pretty good, and it's just a really, really comfortable overall experience while being super, super minimal and still giving you really, really good lockdown. So I had no slippage whatsoever in the shoe, and I think that's partially because the midfoot is a little bit more narrow fit overall. Now, it does kind of have a tabbed heel, so buyer or wearer beware, as some people really, really struggle with kind of rubbing there and can leave you with a bloody Achilles. But there is some light padding there in the heel area, which actually to me is very comfortable, and I haven't had any issues with rubbing, and I haven't had to use any like blister resist socks like some other shoes or anything like that. Overall, this is, like I said, one of my favorite overall uppers. it just is really, really innovative, and I think is really, really cool. Now, as far as one of the most comfortable uppers on a super shoe, that's where you get the New Balance SC Elite upper, where it almost looks like a more traditional upper overall, but this is going to be a single layer mesh, so it is going to be fairly breathable throughout. Not nearly as breathable, obviously, as the Hyperion Elite, but very breathable nonetheless. You also get some decent cushion here for a racing shoe. I'd call it like mid cushion, but a really, really comfortable heel cup. Again, probably the most comfortable upper on a race shoe that I've ever tried. You have a fully gusseted tongue that is in there really, really well, so you get some phenomenal lockdown in that midfoot area. And overall, it's just like a very, like it's breathable, not the most breathable on the market, but it gives you a lot of comfort for, you know, and for a marathon, oftentimes I find the uppers can be a little bit harsh on the foot, a little bit harder, kind of more dialed materials. And this is kind of a breath of fresh air within that space where, you know, you're not worried about any pinching, rubbing, anything with this upper. Very, very comfortable while still being lightweight and fast. Moving to the midsole for both of these shoes, you do have PIBA based foams. So you have Fuel Cell here on the SC Elite V5 and then DNA Gold here with the Hyperion Elite 4 PB. Now, both formulations of PIBA are a little bit firmer than maybe some other brands. You're not going to get like overly squishy. It is going to be soft, yet a little bit maybe supportive feel underfoot. They're not going to just collapse when you put them on. I think, to me, the Hyperion Elite is a little bit firmer, but it's also a little bit snappier, where the Fuel Cell is going to be a little bit more forgiving. Still some decent pace, but maybe not the same snap and pop as some of the faster super shoes on the market. From a stability standpoint, neither of them are going to be inherently unstable, but neither of them are going to be inherently stable either. You can see that they are some of the more narrow-based shoes. In fact, I need to do a comparison, I think, of the SC Elite and the Vaporfly 4, or Vaporfly 4. The three shoes to me feel a little bit more like, you know, it's interesting. You kind of have like max cushion marathon racers nowadays when you think like Endorphin Elite, right? You also think, you know, even there's the Alpha Fly, right? Where you just have these thick chunks of foam under your foot, and they're very, very bouncy. And then you have, I think, some shoes that feel like a little bit more nimble, right? And that's where I feel like these two kind of fit in that category. So they are a little bit narrower underfoot, so they're going to be a little bit more nimble. They feel like they might be a little bit lower stacked than they actually are, slightly firmer foams. So you get a little bit more ground feel, a little bit more kind of feedback that way. And I think that the heel to toe transition, like you know, you don't have these huge protruding heels or anything like that that are, you know, doing the running for you. Some shoes kind of feel like they're doing the running for you in a sense. Both of these, I do feel like, no, you're doing the running, you are getting the feedback off of the ground. And as such, running doesn't feel super, super effortless in the two, but you do feel very quick, very fast. And these are shoes that I really like for like track workouts, especially for that purpose. Now, between the two, as far as like which would I be more comfortable running a marathon in, I do think that the SC Elite, because the foam is a little bit softer, a little bit more accommodating, is going to be a little bit better fit for me for the marathon. But if I were to run maybe like a fast 5K, 10K, then the Hyperion Elite is going to be maybe the option there, right? So it really kind of depends between preference, but so do all shoes, to be honest. It really comes down to running shoe preference. But I would feel confident with either of them, to be honest, running a marathon, and it just kind of comes down to the sensation that you would feel or want to feel. Moving to the outsoles, I feel like both brands did a pretty good job here overall, both of having kind of a good grippy outsole while also not adding unnecessary weight, right? Now, neither of these are going to be like the lightest shoes on the market right now in terms of super shoes, mainly because brands are just absolutely insane these days, but both have made an effort to keep the outsoles fairly good coverage while still being fairly thin and lightweight. Now, I will be curious to see if we get additional innovation. There's like poured rubbers, and not just for these brands, but a lot of brands are starting to use like poured rubbers and different things to keep it just crazy, crazy thin. Keep in mind though that sometimes when brands do that, they're also sacrificing a good bit of durability. But for racing shoes that are only, to be honest, really only supposed to last like a couple good races, and then from there, like breakdown, it is what it is. For me, I would prefer to see some really, really good tech innovation in it and sacrifice a little bit of durability, but I understand I might be in the minority in that opinion. So Now, as far as my pick between the two, you know, that's tough. I feel like they sit in very similar categories or positions in my mind, which again, it's like the slightly more nimble, slightly more aggressive feeling super shoes, which I know a lot of people will struggle with that for the marathon distance. Like I said, like the New Balance, the SC Elite, it still has kind of a nice foam underfoot. It's still soft, not as soft or squishy to me as the V4, but you know, like if I'm going across all distances, I do take the Hyperion 4 Elite PB. It is one of my favorite. Like I love the upper on this, and I feel like it has a really, really good fit and really, really good snap. Are either of these my top marathon shoes? No, but I feel like both are still really, really, really good options, and I like kind of the innovation that we're seeing from the brands. And so, yeah, you know, I think marathon out of the box, like, just got to go finish SC Elite V5. If I'm going to go and try and PR though, and it's kind of like PR or ER, then I might be going Hyperion Elite 4 PB. So final thoughts, really, really cool to see all the brands just really taking some risks and putting themselves out there to try and innovate and make major changes. Like this was a huge change for New Balance, an effort to get a lot more aggressive, a lot more dialed. And for Brooks, it was a huge change putting PIBA in their first ever running shoe. So, you know, the market is just more competitive than ever. There are lots of really, really fast, good shoes out there. And to that end, I think everyone can kind of find a shoe that's going to work for them. And I really like that. So, you know, if you watched this far, I sure appreciate you. Please take a sec. Let me know in the comments what you enjoyed about today's comparison, or if there's other comparisons that you'd like to see. Also, another quick plug again, if you want to help me raise money for the Tokyo Marathon charities, please consider donating down below, or just watching and sharing this with family and friends so we can go ahead and increase its reach, therefore increasing some of the ad revenue. And if you watched this far in the video and you haven't hit that subscribe button, please consider doing so today. But just to wrap us up, I'll leave us with a question as always, which is, what kind of marathon racing shoe do you prefer? Something with a little bit more cushion underfoot, or something that feels a little bit more nimble? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks everybody.